people who work for our athletic democracies have concluded we don't need a fake Lord to tell us not to act. We need real science, and we need us to have a clean energy policy. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Lord Monckton, I guess I think you have a right to explain why you are a Lord, and I don't think you had an opportunity to.
I'll do that very briefly, because this is not the subject of this hearing, and once again I see politics of a not particularly pleasant kind creeping in. My grandfather was created a hereditary peer, one of the last to be created, in 1957, and by letters patent issued by the Queen. Until those letters patent are revoked, and they have not been, I remain, and am correctly addressed as, the Viscount Monckton of Brenchley. I am, therefore, a Lord, but by virtue of the 1999 House of Lords Act, I no longer have the right to sit or vote. That was taken away from my father, so I have never sat or voted in the House of Lords, nor have I pretended otherwise. And I think that really should deal with that matter. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Lord Monckton, what could the climate scientists do to regain the public trust in their work? What can they do to ensure transparency and accountability in the climate scientist community, especially as we look towards the development of the upcoming IPCC's fifth assessment report?
Let me first of all begin with the quotation from NOAA's response to my written testimony, which incidentally I wasn't given a copy of before this hearing, and I think somebody has slipped up there. But the passage that was quoted focused on one short sentence, which mentioned that for the last 7 or 8 years there has been, if anything, a certain amount of global cooling. So there has. But however, my temperature record goes back as far as the Neo-Proterozoic era, 750 million years ago. The graphs I showed today are for the last 150 years. So I don't think I can be fairly accused of having unreasonably cherry-picked the periods over which I was looking at the data. Now, what I think scientists therefore need to do, if they want to start commanding the respect of the public, because they are losing that respect over this issue, is to stop chattering about consensus. Science has never been done by consensus, and it isn't going to be done by consensus now. Stop using in the IPCC's documents references to documents not produced by peer-reviewed sources but by green propaganda groups and by journalists, and confine their analysis to the peer-reviewed literature, as I did today. And also, they must make sure that instead of trying to push one agenda and shout down anyone who dares to put an alternative point of view, as I have politely sought to do today, they should treat those who disagree with them with courtesy, hear with some care what they have to say, and instead of dismissing an argument they perhaps don't understand, as one of the panelists here did when asked to comment on my testimony, they should instead engage in a rational debate via the columns of the peer-reviewed literature with the many scientists who disagree with the official line. And of course, scientists could have been paraded here today, but quite rightly, the minority group, knowing that the majority would merely want to throw brickbats at them, decided that instead somebody with a certain amount of experience in politics and a thick skin should sit and take the cowpats flung at him, which I'm more than happy to do, so as to spare the many thousands of diligent scientists who are questioning every aspect of this ludicrous scare to get on with their work. And that is what, in the end, is going to decide this matter. It is going to be diligent scientific inquiry and not the hurling of childish political insults.
Lord Monckton, do some of these scientists, or anyone I guess could answer this question, do some of these scientists, how are they funded? Do they get grants, or are there organizations that give them funding? Do you think that that has a potential to corrupt the process and what their data, and do they feel beholden to certain results because of that?
That's a very shrewd point, sir. The only reason why the notion that consensus decides science has unfortunately crept in is that science these days effectively is a monopsony. There's only one paying customer, and that's the unwilling taxpayer. And because of that, and because of the grant funding structure, and because of the resultant academic pressures to conform, it takes enormous courage for any scientist to stand out against the political line that is now being taken among the scientific institutions and to say, hang on a moment, the numbers don't add up. I've just shown you today various points at which the numbers very plainly don't add up. And they are established in the peer-reviewed literature, and they're established by measurement and not by modeling. You've heard the rather qualitative replies of the four scientists here. They didn't really quote numbers much. They were quoting models. But science is best done and most accurately done by measurement. And those papers that rely chiefly on measurement are finding that there isn't the problem that we are told there is.
Thank you, sir.
We deeply appreciate your coming here, and I think any review of the record today, the materials you've submitted, I think illustrates the purpose of the hearing. But you've been so patient with us. We want to make sure that, and I apologize for trying to bring it to a conclusion, but we would like to give every member of the panel a minute and a half just for any summary conclusion that you may have, any takeaway. If you've decided that it was just cloud cover and you were wrong, any wrap-up thoughts?
The central point I should like to leave the panel with is that there is no hurry. If you do nothing about this at all for the whole of the next 23 years, the worst that will happen, using the UN's own estimates, is a 1 Fahrenheit degree warming, which will be largely harmless and beneficial. So you have plenty of time to check the studies, just a few of which I have shown you today, in the peer-reviewed literature, suggesting that there is another side to this story, another side based not on modeling but on measurement, which establishes, and is with increasing clarity establishes, that there is no scientific problem. Even if there were, adaptation, as and where and if necessary, would be orders of magnitude cheaper and more cost-effective than trying to stop the emission of carbon dioxide. Who is going to get hurt if you start closing down coal-fired power stations, putting up the price of gasoline and electricity? Who is going to get hurt? It is the working people of America. Is that a good thing? I don't think so, and nor should you.
We thank each of you for your participation in this very important hearing. We will continue with additional hearings on this issue so that we can ensure that all of the science is out in a way that it makes it possible for the public to be able to make an informed decision as to whether or not there really is such a thing as global warming that has been caused by man-made activity. We think that there is no more important debate that we can have in the Congress or in our country. And the experts that we had today, I think, very clearly laid out the scientific reality and has only added to my conviction that we have to act, and we have to act soon. The Waxman-Markey bill passed last June 26, 2009. The Senate has a bill which, with a little bit of luck, it will begin consideration of in the relatively near future, but time is of the essence. So with the thanks of the committee, this hearing is adjourned.